Welcome back, everybody. This is QuestionMarc,
And I'm Ame.
and today we are looking at the new commanders that have been previewed for the upcoming set of Magic the Gathering, Tarkir Dragonstorm. We have 26 new legendary creatures between either the main set or the commander set, and we're going to be ranking all of them on tier lists between excited to play and lame. And we haven't really, we may have seen a few of these, kind of, but a lot of these we're going to be seeing for the first time.
Yep. I haven't been paying particularly close attention to Legends of Tarkir because uh, this just isn't one I'm as invested in as others.
And that's fine, but, you may find, that these actually end up being intriguing from a gameplay standpoint, or, of course, we're just trying to figure out kind of where they would rank. And, you've been playing Commander for a couple of years now.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been playing Commander for over a
Ever.
decade, longer than there's been a Commander. So while we do bring some level of expertise in terms of like what these cards do in theory, I am actually, we are both seeing many of these for the first time right now. So, take what we're saying with a grain of salt, of course, because we may get some of these wrong, but it's just kind of first impressions.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one in here is Baator Ancestor's Voice, and I think it's going to be starting with the...
That is one beautiful dragon.
Yeah, it's going to be starting with the Commander deck one, so if you buy the Abzan Precon, this will be one of the two commanders you can start with. Baator Ancestor's Voice is 2, a white, a black, and a green for a legendary creature Spirit Dragon. And it's a 3/5 with flying and lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, put a number of +1/+1 counters on up to one other target creature you control, equal to the amount of life you gain this turn.
Oh, dear.
Return up to one target creature card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you lost this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so this is really interesting because...
Life gain equals counters.
and life loss equals resurrections. This is one of the few commanders that I really can't think of another one that cares about life gain and loss. So I would think then that the biggest swing that you could do with this would be to pay a bunch of life into something and then gain it all back somehow. Like, say, losing temporary life somehow? It'd be interesting to brainstorm what cards out there do that.
Oh, you could pull some serious nonsense with this.
And of course, it's got lifelink built in, so you've got some life gain built in. It'll put counters on creatures. I mean, the potential here does seem high, and dragons are always fun. And we were doing something called the vanilla test last time, I think.
Yes.
Where we were just looking at the total mana value, in this case 5, compared to the power and toughness, which in this case, the toughness is 5, but the power is not, which means that it usually needs something to make up for that.
And boy, howdy, does it come out swinging.
It's got flying and lifelink that pretty much make up for it almost by itself, but then it's got like 2 other abilities wrapped up in here. Another thing that throws off the vanilla check, though, is that a multicolored card, because it requires more colored mana costs, more colored mana symbols, and different ones no less, that should require the resulting creature to be stronger. So I would rate a card like this more harshly, but that's a pretty powerful ability there.
Yeah.
So, and I think going forward, maybe you can read the cards and then we'll start our analysis that way.
Sure.
With you just reading them. And, okay, so...
This way I've got more to say.
So with regards to Baator here, and is it pronounced Baator? Because, like, that could lead to some jokes.
Or Bator or Beator.
Yeah,
Beto.
I kind of want to put him here. I like it. I'm not sure if I'm going to build around it myself, but, I mean, it's close. I think it's a really interesting and unique mechanic. And the number one thing for me for building a card or a deck is I want it to encourage me to do something gameplay wise or with a series of cards that I don't always see.
Something tells me that the decks with this in it are going to somehow lend to a lot of infinite loops, but that's just a feeling rather than an actual basis in knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of cards that will gain you life, and there's a lot of cards that will lose you life. And then if you happen to get both of them at the same time, you just win. So, yeah, we could see something like that, that it's like a semi-casual deck that starts doing some silly life gain, some silly life loss, and then whoopsie poopsie, they trigger each other, and I won the game.
Yeah.
So overall, I like it. It doesn't quite grab me, but also flavor is, of course, a factor, and I think the spirit dragons are cool, but there's a lot of them. They're not that unique in the flavor sense. So Zergo here, yeah, I think it is going with the. It placed my commander deck cards first. In fact, why does it go Zergo with a Z? Oh well. Okay, Zergo Stormrender. Why don't you read this guy for us?
Okay, that's 3 mana.
Mardu.
Legendary creature, Orc Warrior, 3/3. Okay, so we're passing the vanilla test today. Mobilize 1. Whenever this creature attacks, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature token. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next step. Whenever a creature token you control leaves the battlefield, like when your red warrior gets sacked, draw a card if it was attacking, which it was. Otherwise, each opponent loses 1 life.
Okay, so a tricky thing there is that it says that you sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step, but it also says that you draw a card if it was attacking. So attacking means that you still have to be in combat for that to count. So if any of your creature tokens leave the battlefield during combat, then you'll draw a card. But if it's after combat, like when this second trigger happens,
Oh.
that will be too late. It would have to say if it attacked this turn in order for the other to be the case. But also, that would be awkward because creatures that enter the battlefield attacking never, quote, attacked. It's another technicality with the rules. So this is, I think, fine. And honestly, I think the mobilize mechanic is really cool. You can synergize it with a whole lot of things, from warrior synergy to just like anointed procession and O'Hare talk, things that allow you to make duplicates of creature tokens. I feel like I do want to get a rules clarification on if you create a copy of a token that had sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step, does the token also have that condition? Because I think it does. But either way, this is not my favorite of the mobilized commanders, but it is a way in Mardu of drawing cards while attacking. And heck, if your creatures do die later, your opponents still lose an extra life for each of them. So I think on this one, I'm actually going to say that I like it.
I don't know, it seems questionable to me.
Or you know what? Maybe here actually good, but not for me, because just a spoiler for the future here. I really like the other Zergo better, and I'm probably gonna build a deck with the other Zergo, putting this one in the 99. In fact, I am gonna skip ahead, just because we're already talking about it. Zergo Thunder's Decree.
Alright, 3 mana for a 2/4. Okay. Mobilize 2. During your end step, warrior tokens you control have this token can't be sacrificed. So bleh to sacrificing them at the beginning of the next end step.
Yep. So he's a 2/4, which I think is somewhat irrelevant compared to the other one that's a 3/3. I mean, the main thing is that he's more likely to be able to attack safely to trigger the mobilize because he has 1 more toughness. His power almost doesn't matter. And of course, mobilize 2, so we're getting 2 warriors each time instead of 1. I love bigger numbers there. And of course, you get to keep the warrior tokens. And there's quite a few mobilize cards in this set and warrior token cards that this would help with. One important rules thing here is that The creature tokens say that you sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step, which means the next single end step. If they happen to somehow not get sacrificed during that end step, then they stick around forever. They don't have to be sacrificed ever again. So if Zurgo dies sometime afterwards, you still keep those warriors that you skipped sacrificing that one time. But here's the biggest deal. The number one reason why I want to play Zurgo, besides just like Mobilize is neat and there's a lot of them and that could build a whole deck, it's that it says warrior tokens. So if you use somebody like, oh, I don't know, my favorite creature of all time,
Oh no.
Kiki Jiki, to make a token that's a copy of any particular warrior that you've got, that token is supposed to be sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step. But not here. So you actually get to keep Kiki Jiki tokens if they're warriors. Same goes for like 8 other red spells that make token copies of things. If they're warriors, you'll keep them. So that's why I want to build Zurgo Thunder's Decree. And where is he? Or there he
Bottom
is.
row.
Okay. He's going up to the top. I am excited to play Zurgo Thunder's Decree.
I would agree that this is better than other Zurgo, but not for me.
Okay, that's fine. I would definitely put the other one in the 99 because I'll put every mobilized creature and in there and anything that synergizes with warriors and making like hasty creature tokens. It should be a fun build, one that is powerful but interesting. So let's say next we have Anafenza, Unyielding Lineage.
Okay. 3 mana, 2/2. Okay, passing. Well, no, not passing the Nilla test. Flash, first strike. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, Anafenza endures 2. You put 2/1/1 counters on it or create a 2/2 white spirit creature token.
Oh, that's an interesting distinction. Okay. Wow. So this is the introduction of the Mobilize ability in this set, and this is the introduction of the Endure ability in this set. We may or may not see these abilities ever again, though they introduced Raid in the original Tarkir, and then they brought it back a few times. So Endures, yeah, you can choose to either put that many +1/+1 counters on that creature or create a spirit. But I figured that it would create 2 1/1 white spirits because it's Endures 2. No, it creates a 2/2 white spirit. Well, that is interesting.
So either beef up Anafenza or add some spirits.
And she's got Flash and First Strike. So a lot of these creatures that have Flash and then do a thing around like creatures dying are meant to be kind of board wipe protection. And she can be as well.
In response,
You drop Anafenza, and you probably want to choose the second ability on her, or the second version of Endure. Because if someone goes, I don't know, Damnation, and you respond with Anafenza.
well, first you respond by yelling damnation.
Oh, yeah. But if you respond with Anafenza and you choose the second ability, then your board gets wiped, but you get a series of 2/2s from it. If you choose the first ability, then your creatures all die, and then you go to put counters on Anafenza, and she's dead too. So,
Yeah.
but of course, there are a lot of other situations where you can drop her down as like a surprise blocker. Having First Strike is slightly relevant. But of course, this card is designed for Standard, and it's probably fine in Standard. In Commander, I think this is questionable at best, just because the Flash thing stops being a surprise when it's in the command zone.
Okay, not a commander, but I would say that's still a good card. Better in the 99.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to put it as questionable just because I am primarily thinking of these as ranking them as commanders. But that, I mean, a 2/2 First Strike for 3 is unremarkable. If it has some other ability, that can be kind of par for the course. Flash isn't that remarkable either. That last ability, though, is still pretty neat. You might still play like a mono white creature sacrifice kind of thing, but more likely this is going to go in the 99 of decks at best.
Yeah, I think it would be stronger there.
Okay, that
Aces in
said,
their spaces.
yeah. That said, the next one here is Betor Kin to All.
All right, Betor again. Beto again. Betor. All right, once again, we've got 5 mana, 5/7. Okay, passing the Nilla test. Flying. At the beginning of your end step, if creatures you control have a total toughness of 10 or greater, draw a card. Then, if creatures you control have a total toughness of 20 or greater, untap each creature you control. If it's higher than 40, if it's 40 or higher, each opponent loses half their life rounded up. Wow! Oh, do you have a lot of crap on the field? Guess what? You win!
So this is the latest in the trend of Big Butts deck, of the Toughness Matters kind of decks, that started back with Doran the Siege Tower. Let me see if I can bring up Doran here, for anyone who doesn't know. Doran the Siege Tower.
It's a tree.
He is a tree. And he's a 3-mana 0/5, except each creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. So this guy is nuts in part because he was a 3-mana 5/5 at a time where that was way above the curve. I mean, effectively a 5/5. And the part that I think they maybe underestimated him on when they printed him, maybe, is that he effectively reduces the power of your opponent's creatures if they're like a 3/2 or a 5/3 or something, that they get weaker.
Oh, were you planning to be all aggressive with low health? Not anymore, you're not.
So this was not only buffing your high toughness creatures, it was also nerfing your opponent's high power creatures. And that's an aspect that they haven't really returned to on any of these. The whole all of combat is done differently for everybody in a way that makes your opponents angry sometimes. They've kind of avoided that. But Toughness Matters, it's in the same colors, so in a way it's directly competing with Doran for having the deck with all your 6+ toughness creatures in it. Your walls and things like that. But the payoff here is huge. You draw a card, you untap all your creatures, and of course eventually you make your opponents all lose half their life.
And if you wanted to, you could probably build a deck based around, get big butts on the field, summon Betor, win.
Absolutely. And if I look up, I think it's Bloodletter of Aclazotz. Yeah, this guy comes to mind. Read this card for me if you could.
Let's see. If an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice. Oh, that would just be cruel.
It absolutely would, because being a 2/4, it fits into the theme of this deck just fine. It would effectively be like a 4/4, or no, that's not what it does. It cares about the toughness, though. And then if you do manage to get a toughness all the way up to 40 total for all your creatures, then each opponent will lose half their life rounded up, and then they'll lose the rest of it. All of it.
Whew.
Yeah, so this is not lose half your life and then lose half your life again. This is, so it's not half and then half. It's half and then the rest. So you do definitely win at the beginning of your end step if you have the Bloodletter and 40 or more toughness.
Yeah, I could see building a deck around, like I said, just get the big butts on the field, then summon the dragon. Yeah.
But if only there was a way to, burst up that much toughness real quick.
Oh, no.
Creatures you control get +0/+5 and gain reach until end of turn. So...
Does that include end step?
Yes.
Oh, dear.
So, 40 divided by 5 is 8. So that means if you had 8 creatures with 0 toughness, which you can't do, really, then tower defense would win you the game. So you can subtract, I guess, 7 from that. So in any case, if you have 5 or 6 creatures and tower defense, maybe even less if the creatures have a really big butt to begin with, then you can win out of nowhere with tower defense. Wait, no, that's still not winning. That is still your opponents lose half their life.
Yes.
So it's not like an infinite combo, like something that would get you into a higher bracket. Though this one kind of is. So I'm thinking that this might be at least a 3, maybe a 4 on the bracket list.
Yeah.
Just for Bloodletter of Aclazotz alone, pretty much. Or same thing with, I think there's an Archfiend. No, that's not Tower Archfiend. There's an Archfiend. Of Despair. This guy.
Your opponents can't gain life, and at the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life that player, lost this turn.
Yep, so this also does that same trick.
Oh, did you lose half? Well, now you're about to lose the other half.
Exactly. So you've got more than one way of kind of like going infinite with Baator in the sense that it turns into an instant win, except you still have to get 40 or more toughness. So I could see the argument of this still being a bracket 3, even though there is guidance on avoiding early 2-card combos. This is not early, and you can't do it with those 2 cards alone. You got to get 40 toughness. So I think this is okay. In fact, maybe even fun. I don't know that it stands out super well against the other commanders that care about toughness, but I want to put it about here because these give you some great goals.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay, so next we have Elsha, Threefold Master.
Love the art.
Oh yeah, she's a Jin? Okay.
All right. 3 mana, 1/1. With Trample and Prowess, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets 1/1 until end of turn. Okay, so you have to cast all the sorceries.
Kind of, yeah.
Whenever Elsha deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 monk creature tokens with Prowess.
Yes. So first off, I love the comedy of a 1/1 with Trample.
I was kind of like, huh?
Yeah, and of course also we probably should be referencing their clans as much as possible. That this is a Jeskai clan character. Monks are very common among the Jeskai. They're kind of the airbenders if you're into Avatar. So a 3 mana 1/1 with Trample and Prowess. That doesn't make the cut, but Elsha getting you a series of monks. Honestly, anything that says like you create a variable amount of extra creature tokens and you get to keep them, and they have abilities, and the same things that synergize with her synergize with that.
Oh dear. That's going to be...
I mean, this can snowball really easily.
Oh dear, summon the army.
Absolutely. I mean,
Muster the Rohirrim, the commander.
Let's see. You see a pair. I think it's the... Yeah, I think this is the card I'm thinking of. You see a pair of goblins.
If you charge them, then creatures you control get +2/0 till end of turn. And if you befriend them, then you create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens.
So I'm thinking that this is a deck where you could play lots of effects like this one, where you cast it and you boost all of your creatures. And is the first time that you cast a spell like this going to be particularly good with Elsha? I mean, she'll become a 4/2 trampler and you'll get 4 monks. I think that the second time that you do a spell like you see a pair of goblins is going to be really good, though. Because you'll be attacking with, like, 5 monks who are all getting the prowess boost and the power boost. And you're making more monks. So this is the kind of snowball stuff that you can do.
I keep thinking of the Fibonacci sequence.
Oh yeah. Some kind of golden ratio stuff going on. I don't know. But I think this one has potential, but she does have 1 toughness built in, and I feel like you're going to be not doing sorcery stuff, but probably a whole lot of instant stuff. You're probably going to be doing counter spells and removal and just responding to everything because she doesn't have hexproof, she doesn't have ward, she doesn't even have more than 1 toughness. So you're going to need to be like on it, but these colors give you all the tools you need. So this is going to be a very interactive deck. And at least, though, you're not going pure control because it turns into monks that can kill people. So I think this is another one that I like, um, or maybe good but not for me. Um, it's kind of borderline for me between these two because I think personally I don't know that I want to be playing a deck that is tons of instants and just being like Jeskai control. Um, but I think it's good if you are the kind of person who would like to do Jeskai control but also have a win con of monks. This does seem good. So we'll go on to the next one here. We've got Eshki Dragonclaw.
Nice colors.
Oh yeah.
All right, 4 mana teamer. Vigilance, Trample, Ward 1. Very good, very good. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've cast both a creature spell and a non creature spell this turn, draw a card and put 2 1/1 counters on Eshki Dragonclaw.
Well, we've got some solid stuff going on here. She's got a great set of abilities: Vigilance, Trample, and Ward 1. Just a little bit of protection thrown on her. I'm actually really glad that we've moved past the era of putting Ward 2 on every other thing, but also past the era of being afraid to put Ward of any kind on creatures. Ward 1, I think, is nice on commanders. And Vigilance and Trample are great things to have on Voltron commanders, so that you don't have to worry about them getting chump blocked indefinitely, and you can attack with them and still keep them up as a blocker, so that you can invest everything into one creature and not just have no blockers on other people's turns. Moreover, at the beginning of combat, you draw a card and put 2 counters. You just have to cast a creature spell and a non-creature spell. So I guess that the theme of what the rest of the deck would look like would be a lot of like maybe mana dorks and like cantrips and things.
Or perhaps creatures with equipment.
Creatures with equipment.
Cast a creature, cast an equipment, or an enchantment, or something.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
theme here is pairs. Stuff that pairs easily with other stuff.
Okay. Because ideally, Eshki would get some auras and some equipment and things dropped onto her to give her, I don't know, flying, to give her more. Actually, shoot, you almost don't need to put any auras and equipment on her because she will get bigger and has a pretty good set of abilities already. So, in any case, you just want to be casting cheap spells, a creature spell and a non-creature spell every turn. Ideally, 1 or 2 mana, drawing cards to replace each other. And I think this could be a really fun deck.
Yeah.
So, will I build this, though? I don't see the payoff as being particularly unique for me, but I do like it. And I would probably encourage this one for a newer player, as long as they stick to the your spells cost 1 or 2 mana, this deck would probably be really fun for a newer player to play and would just work, you know?
Yeah, I could see it as being good for new players.
Yeah, as long as they don't pack it with a bunch of expensive creatures, I think it'll be a pretty smooth experience for them.
Yeah.
Then we've got Eshki Teemer's Roar.
And this one is just Teamer. All right. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on Eshki. If that spell's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. If this spell's power is 6 or greater, Eshki deals damage equal to Eshki's power to each opponent.
Okay, so this one, we're giving up on the non-creature spell part. I think that this one lends itself to a little more coherent, a little more powerful deck, because you can focus on one of those strange, pretty much all creature decks. If you are playing any non-creatures in your deck, they probably say like all your creatures are indestructible this turn or something. But yeah, you cast a creature spell, you get a counter on her. Great. Second one, no, a bigger one, you draw a card. An even bigger one, she deals damage to each opponent?
Yep.
Oh, and by the way, if you do a 6-power creature spell, you do the first ability and the second ability and the third ability in that order.
Yep.
So she'll get bigger, you'll draw a card, and then you'll deal damage based on her new bigger size.
There seems to be a bit of a theme of escalation with some of these commanders.
Absolutely, and I love that. Honestly, one of the best things about Magic is the pacing of you have 1 mana on turn 1, 2 mana on turn 2, 3 mana on turn 3. And so every game naturally has this build up to bigger and more bombastic plays as the game goes on. And Commander especially, where a lot of times you don't hit your stride until like turn 5.
You should see how crazy some of my board states have gotten with my sweet revenge deck.
Absolutely. Or with some dinosaurs, you hardly even get going until like turn 5. But that means that, unlike in standard Magic, where the game is probably over on turn 5, the game has finally hit like the most exciting part. Now everyone should be throwing haymakers at each other. And I love commanders that continue to scale up as we go. And most that they design these days do. And of course, the Teamer is the color combination that most cares about creatures. This precon will most care about the big ones. Dragons, of course, usually fit into these criteria, but they could be other things. She doesn't have trample or ward or vigilance like her companion, the other version of herself does. So, I might even be a little lower on her for that reason. But it is just like a stompy deck commander. Play creatures with 6 power, or at least 4, and you're going to have a good time. So, let's see, where is it? Over here, and she's down here. I'm going to say this might be good, but not for me. Just because I would want to have a keyword ability or 2 on there, or, a theme that is a little bit more specific than just creatures with power. But it is a good payoff for those things. So next we've got Felithar, Dawn of the Abzan.
With Abzan colors for a cost. At 3/3. Trample. Whenever Felithar enters or attacks, you may sacrifice a non-land permanent. I know how to read.
Yeah.
When you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control.
Okay, enters or attacks. Enters or attacks. Okay, usually I like that text. But you may sacrifice a non-land permanent. When you do, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Well, it passes the vanilla test as being a 3-mana 3/3, and then, of course, being multicolor, it needs something extra, like trample, in order to just, even be considered halfway decent. And if that was all it said, it would be lame. So it really hinges on this ability being good, and I'm not totally sold. What kind of permanent do you want to be sacrificing in order to put counters on all of your creatures?
Tokens.
Yeah, you could have a deck where you're make 3 tokens, sacrifice 1 of them to make the rest bigger. Make 3 tokens, sacrifice 1 of them to make the rest of them bigger. Although, you've probably seen that it can be really annoying to keep track of an army of creature tokens with different numbers of counters on them.
True.
That's probably the worst, bookkeeping that there is in Magic. So I don't love that, but also there are, of course, plenty of cards that exist in Magic that you would want to sacrifice for different things, especially in Black. I can't think of it off the top of my head, and the reward of putting counters on creatures you control mean that you simultaneously have to be building an army.
Feed the weak ones to the strong ones.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll become even stronger.
Yeah, so I'm thinking this one might actually go down in questionable, though.
Agreed.
Where is it?
Right there.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I've got my cursor on it right now. Okay, so not lame, but I am going to put it in questionable. It really stands to... it's going to depend on what you are sacrificing. Some of you can probably come up with some pretty creative things to be sacrificing, but, it's designed for standard. It's probably not going to compare to some of these others, but that's okay.
All right, let's try Felithar the Steadfast. Abzan colors +1. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. And that's a 0/5. We were just talking about this. Creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have defender. And for 3 mana and a tap and a sack, and sacrifice of another creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness, then discard cards equal to its power.
Okay, so this is another big booty deck. In fact, I think the other one we were looking at, Baitor, is in the same commander deck, so those two are kind of cohorts in a way. They're meant to go in each other's decks. And this one does...
Well, they are both Abzan. It's just that one's a
Yes.
dragon and the other's a warrior.
And this one does the whole defenders can attack thing, and they do damage based on their power. So while the other one I think is a little bit more unique and has a bigger payoff, this one I think lends itself to having more cards that synergize with it, like walls.
Yeah.
So I'm torn on which one I would do as the commander. Of course, this one has kind of the Doran ability at first, although it doesn't weaken your opponent's creatures. But in Doran can't make your defenders not just defenders. This one can. It also reminds me a lot of Arcades the Strategist. Arcades... And there's a couple of Arcades. The Strategist.
Thank goodness you specified it was Arcades, because otherwise I would totally be reading that as Arcades.
Yeah. So yeah, he has the each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. I had an Arcades the Strategist deck for a while, but I started to see more and more people building it, and I felt like I kind of had my fun. This is, of course, a slightly different color combination, so it's overlapping a little more with Doran, but I think it also feeds into the Abzan theme of resilience. So I think this is basically the precon that fits that pre-existing theme that is already well liked. If you get this precon, you're probably going to have a good time with creatures with big butts.
If you like big butts and you cannot lie, get this one.
So I think this might be maybe good, but not for me again, because I've actually kind of already been down this road, and I think it's fine. I think it's good. I'll enjoy playing against it. And I'd be happy for the people who pick up the precon, but I think I'll pass. Next we have Codis, Sibsig Champion.
All right. This time, let's see. Black, green, blue is Sultai, right?
Yes.
Hey, cool. I remembered it. All right. Sultai colors for 3/3. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard by exiling 3 other cards from your graveyard in addition to paying its other costs.
Oh, so kind of like Escape.
It's kind of a hefty price tag, though.
Kind of, yeah.
Whenever one or more creatures you control enter, if one or more of them entered from a graveyard or was cast from a graveyard, put 2 1/1s on Codis.
Okay, so yeah, that first ability being kind of like Escape does have kind of a safety valve on it, in that you have to exile cards. But that does make it kind of a throwback to the Delve mechanic that was the Sultai mechanic the first time we were in Tarkir, where you had to exile cards from your graveyard.
Dude, that guy's wearing hands on his belt.
Oh, I think that might be his hand? Because he's a zombie, and so his hand is like missing
But that would be
flesh?
his other hand.
Oh.
Look where the thumb is.
Is he missing both hands?
Apparently!
Okay. Well, either way, I know that they've changed the flavor of the zombies of the Sultai to now being honored dead, who are brought back because people like them. So that's nice.
Sorry, man, we just don't want to run the world without you. You're not done yet.
Yeah, so even though they look a little creepy, the zombies in this setting are a little more loved.
I think if I were to be resurrected, like, for that reason, I would be torn between, oh good, I haven't finished business here, or, oh good, I wanted to see how it turns out, and, guys, I'm retired.
Oh, yeah. I mean, here's hoping that it's also consensual, because I know that that's part of the problem with the previous version of zombies, is that it was kind of feeding into an idea of slavery that they didn't like. And so the zombies this time around are intended to be clearly not slaves. So I hope that it is then a consensual process this time around. Either way, the having to pay for the spell and exile 3 other cards is a pretty hefty cost, and doing so gets you 2 extra counters on Cotis, a creature which has no trample, no flying, no ward, no vigilance, no, all the keywords and stuff. I think this is actually a little underwhelming. It's one of the precon commanders. And yet, I'm not convinced that this is actually lame, per se. I haven't wanted to put anything in lame yet, but this is the closest to it that I've seen. It is questionable. But, of course, being able to cast spells again from your graveyard is a powerful thing. We've seen it in, I think it's Muldrotha? Muldrotha? Look at Muldrotha here to compare.
Woo!
So during each of your turns, you may play a land and cast a permanent spell of each permanent type from the graveyard. This card is one of the best and most popular commanders of all time, but it doesn't make you exile 3 cards every time you do it. So, I don't know, you might see this as kind of a mini Muldrotha sometimes, but you've got to get even more cards into your graveyard in order to fuel it. So that's probably the one thing that's keeping me from putting it in lame, is that it seems like a poor imitation of one of the best cards of all time. Then we have the other version of Cotis, the Fang Keeper.
Okay.
I think he's hotter here.
Agreed. The other one reminds me of Zombie Liu Kang. This one's a lot prettier.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've got 1 Sultai, indestructible, 2/1. Whenever Cotis deals combat damage to a player, exile the top X cards of their library, where X is the amount of damage dealt. So, probably 2. You may cast any number of spells with mana value X or less from among them without paying their mana cost. Oh, you could be so annoying with that.
Oh, yeah. So, it's wild to me that this is the standard legal one and not the commander deck one, because this one has so much potential in Commander in general. Way more. It's indestructible? That's big.
That is.
And being able to cast your opponent's spells, well, that's something that I usually find a little questionable in Commander, because then you can't really build a strategy around what your opponent's spells are.
But if nothing else, you can keep them from casting the thing, so, merit on its own. Being able to cast it for yourself is a nice little bonus.
Exactly, and your opponents are theoretically playing good cards, so this allows you to play their good cards in addition to your good cards, so it kind of gives you a bigger deck if the other cards that are added to the deck are really haphazard, because you can hit different people. But the biggest thing here is without paying their mana costs.
Yep.
As is, no synergy whatsoever. You hit someone for 2, you exile the top 2 cards of their library, you can cast, any number of spells that you were exiled this way with mana value 2 or less. That is decent, but I think that the theme of this deck is going to be increasing the power on this thing. Probably the simplest one that you could do that would make a big difference? Rancor. Or would you pronounce it Rancor? Either way, want to read this card?
All right, we've got 1 green mana for an enchantment aura. Enchanted creature gets 2/0 and has trample. When Rancor is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return Rancor to its owner's hand. Oh my!
You know what? I think that the word Rancor is how it's pronounced, but the monster in Star Wars is the Rancor. Slightly different pronunciation, but even just putting that thing on this guy makes him a 4/1 trample indestructible. And if they, tear it apart, then the Rancor goes back to your hand and you can put it back on again. No problem. And then you're not only hitting them for 4, and you're hitting them more likely because of the trample, you're also probably revealing 4 cards and casting any of them that cost 4 or less.
So, yeah, put that in your deck. Put that in a deck with Cotis.
And I normally don't recommend Loxodon Warhammer because it costs 3 to cast and 3 to equip. But how about an extra 3 power and trample and lifelink? That seems incredibly powerful on this guy. So he seems like he has way more potential than his other version. In fact, as I said, while I'm normally not super in favor of casting your opponent's spells, you have, I think, a clear path to what you should do with the 99 itself, and it allows you to cast your opponent's spells for free. That solves most of those problems. I at least want to put it in I like it.
I agree.
Where is he? There he is. Stupid sexy Cotus.
That's based on a Balinese costume, isn't it?
Or
maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. There's a good chance I don't know what I'm talking
I
about.
think they said that the Sultai this time around are based on Cambodian culture.
Oh, okay.
I'm not really familiar with Cambodian culture, but I think that the cards in Sultai are very pretty.
I can tell you that some of the first Mortal Kombat movie was filmed in Cambodia.
Neat. Honestly, this one's actually kind of borderline of maybe even going into excited to play. Because I really like the idea of optimizing, just buffing this thing's power, getting out with haste. Yeah, that could be a lot of fun. I may test that. In fact, you know what? I've talked myself into it. Let's get another one into that excited to play. But next we have Narset, Jeskai Waymaster.
All right, and as you might have guessed, we're paying Jeskai for a 3/4, passing the Nilla test. At the beginning of your end step, you may discard your hand, and if you do, draw cards equal to the number of spells you've cast this turn.
Okay, I'm glad that it says you may, because
Otherwise, it would be...
brutal. It'd be much harder to build around. You could do it, of course, but much harder to build around. And you draw cards equal to the number of spells you've cast this turn. So this really feels like a Storm Commander, except keeping in mind that cards that you cast that have literal Storm, like, what's Grape Shot? Cards like literal Grape Shot that actually has Storm says that you copy this spell for each spell cast before it this turn. So Grape Shot will synergize with casting a lot of spells, and Narset will synergize with casting a lot of spells. But the copies that Storm makes are not technically cast. So if you get like 4 Grape Shots, that's still only 1 spell for Narset. Regardless, you could definitely build a deck that has like a couple of spells that make extra mana, or that untap your lands or something, and then cast like 3 or 4 spells in a turn. But I kind of want to put this in questionable. It might
I'm not
even be
feeling...
lame.
Yeah, I'm not feeling this one.
I'm going to once again actually err on the side of questionable. You know what? She doesn't have any keyword abilities.
Nope.
So she's just okay in combat. You have to cast... How many spells do you feel like you'd have to cast in order for discard your hand and draw some to be worth it?
Well, my hand tends to kind of lean toward the hands that I play tend to be more towards the fat side, so I would have to in order to take her up on this offer, I'd have to either hate everything in my hand for the situation I'm in, or I would have to have cast I would have to have cast more spells than whatever's in my hand.
Yeah.
And odds are I haven't done that, especially if I'm having a tough time.
So it does seem like actually it will be kind of hard. Like, okay, you could dump your whole hand so you have no cards left in your hand. Cool. Except how many spells are you casting with that? I'd say on a typical turn, 2, if you built around it, 3 or 4, you could obviously build up to the one big turn kind of deck. And I think that's what this is designed for, is to be the one big turn kind of deck where you could have plots and foretells and maybe even suspends all going off at the same time and some big storm turn. Except her payoff is not you win the game or you deal double damage or something. It's you set up to do a good turn next turn.
I'd be happier if I could draw the number of cards that a number of cards equal to the spells I've cast, and then discard the same amount. That would, draw and then discard rather than discard than draw. That
Yeah.
way I could cultivate my hand a little more.
Yeah, I mean, Red White has had a theme recently of drawing cards and discarding cards for benefits. But honestly, the more that I think about it, I think this is going to be the first one that I want to put all the way down in lame.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
there are probably some people who are going to be able to make a decent deck out of this. But I think even if you do the whole Storm turn kind of deck, which I've seen before, it was boring before because it ends up being that like 20-minute turn where everyone like goes to the bathroom or gets a snack or goes next door to get a drink or something and comes back and asks you if you won the game and you're like, hold on, I've almost figured it out. And then your answer is no, but I have drawn 6 cards, so pass the turn. And I hate that. So lame. Next.
If I need to use the bathroom, I just cast a Fury's Protection.
Yeah, that works. You're taking some time off there. All right. What have we got next?
Okay, Nevriv, Crackling Vanguard, 2 mana Mardu. Well, 5 mana, 2
Total.
mana and then Mardu. You know
Yeah.
what I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's 4/4. We're not passing the Nilla test today. A Flying Death Toucher. When Nariv enters, create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens.
Okay.
Whenever Nariv attacks, exile a number of cards from the top of your library equal to the number of differently named tokens you control. During any turn you attacked with a commander, you may play those. Just play them.
Differently named tokens, you say?
We want all the tokens.
Hold on. I have to. I feel like there's been one time before where they've said differently named tokens. I think it was. I'm gonna say it was a Teamer Gremlin that did it. That was from Kaladesh. Gimbal is who I'm thinking of. Teamer Gremlin from Kaladesh. Okay, but he was in March of the Machines.
You mean Avishkar?
Oh, yeah, true. It's Avishkar now. Okay, so this guy says at the beginning of your end step, create a gremlin, and then put a number of counters on that gremlin where X is the number of differently named artifact tokens you control. Oh, it's specified artifact tokens. Okay, this one's Mardu colors and doesn't specify artifact. Differently named tokens.
Whew, it's a good thing it can't be in my Sweet Revenge deck because that produces so many differently named tokens.
Oh, yes, it does. So it's a little bit of a bummer here that the tokens... Okay, so by default, any token that doesn't have a name specified, its name is the same as its creature types. So this token is named Goblin.
Huh.
That's really unfortunate that they didn't go with a more unusual creature type or anything. Like, they could have even gone with Goblin Warrior so that it would synergize with other Mardu cards, possibly? And Goblin Warrior would be a little bit more rare than Goblin or Warrior.
Well, it's not like other token types are hard to come by. I think they didn't want to make it too easy.
I wish they had. Like, the other card that this brings to mind is Prosh. Prosh, I think it's spelled with 2 S's. Yeah,
Woo! Now that is art.
Oh yeah, and this is another one of the most popular commanders of all time, or at least it was.
Wow, those legs.
And he makes a number of kobolds named Kobolds of the Care Keep. Why couldn't we have that kind of energy on Nariv? When he only makes goblins named Goblin? I would rather him have made one more look up here. Is it Raging Goblin? Raging Goblin is a Goblin Berserker with haste. I would rather him have made a 1/1 Goblin Berserker creature token named Raging Goblin. That would have been funny. As it stands, though, if it wasn't for that, I would love this. I mean, okay, you're exiling a number of cards from the top of your library. And during any turn you attacked with a commander, you may play those cards. Okay, you do also have to pay the mana cost for them. So, damn, I really like the phrase, differently named tokens, but that I think actually knocks it down quite a bit for me. That it doesn't make an unusual named token, and it doesn't let you cast the spells for free. You still have to pay for them. Any turn where you attacked. 5 mana, 4/4 flying death touch. Yeah, you know what? I think that ability is still so cool. I'm going to put it up here, but not here.
Okay.
All right. So let's go on to. Okay, how much do we have left? We're probably halfway, maybe a little over halfway through.
Yep.
Nariv, Heart of the Storm, the other Nariv.
1 mana Mardu. Flying. If a creature you control that earned this turn.
Earned?
I can't read. If a creature that you control that entered this turn would deal damage, it deals twice that much damage instead, and it's a 4/5. So, that is going to be so annoying.
Okay, and it doesn't specify combat damage. Interesting. So that means, but you were about to say something?
Well, yeah, that means that if this thing goes to attack your, if the commander flies over, attacks opponent directly. Oh wait, it can't do it on the turn it enters unless you give it haste. Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Dawn of the. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Oh, nope. Well, it's like Dawn of the Third Day or something. The Lord of the Rings card. That one gives all of your creatures haste and could come out the turn before Nariv. Also, lots of commander decks, maybe too many, play Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves,
True. Those
Lava
are.
Spur Boots.
I would say those are staples.
And you could even in this deck play Ring of Vulcus, I think, is the red one. All 4 of those equipment can give your commander haste for as little as 1 mana on the turn, or actually as little as 0 with Lightning Greaves. And then the commander, of course, will deal double damage. I'm also thinking of stuff like, let's see, what is it? Battle Master? Is that its name? Nope. Okay, I'm not remembering card names very well right now. But I'm not trying to do a deep dive here necessarily. But I thought it was called Ogre Battlemaster. A creature that says other creatures you control enter the battlefield and get +2/+0 and haste until end of turn. That should be really good in a deck like this. That all your creatures effectively have haste, 2 more power, and when they hit, they deal double whatever that boosted power is. So this is a haste commander.
Yep.
But it doesn't have haste.
Ironically.
And it doesn't give haste. You could fill your deck with haste, and that's neat. I think that you might actually still want to play this, just because there are a couple of other haste commanders that have been printed before, of ones that kind of care about haste, but not ones that are 3 colors, I think. So this Nariv, I think, actually does have potential.
Good, but not for me?
Probably. I think that in the end, having a deck that is all haste could be kind of fun, but not that unique. So, yeah, and I don't think it's terribly powerful, but it's alright. So then we've got Sarkhan Dragon Ascendant.
Alright. We've got 2 mana for 2/2. When Sarkhan enters, you may behold a dragon. If you do, create a treasure token.
Ooh.
To behold a dragon, choose a dragon you control or reveal a dragon card from your hand. Whenever a dragon you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on Sarkhan. Until end of turn, Sarkhan becomes a dragon in addition to its other types and gains flying.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so one of the most powerful cards...
See the dragon, become the dragon.
One of the most powerful cards in a variety of formats in recent years, including Commander and CEDH, is Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. And while he's a 1 mana 2/1, that when it deals combat damage to a player, you make a treasure, and you exile the top card of the defending player's library, you may cast that card. I would, someone could possibly prove me wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, the reason why people play this, the number one reason, there are others,
Is because it's a cute pirate monkey.
That's definitely it. That's
with
really
glasses.
CEDH prefers, their creatures to be cute monkeys with goggles. But I think it's actually for the treasure token that you can get repeatedly in order to build up mana for a big turn later. You get it out early, you just make a few treasures, and it's usually not necessarily worth the removal, not necessarily worth a blocker, since it kind of trades up with creatures that have more power and toughness than it does. But you also might get a little spell to cast for free, probably not. And for 2 mana, you can dash it out, and that gives it haste, but you have to return back to your hand. But people do that plenty, and I think Sarkhan fits right into that really well. 2 mana, you come out, you make a you make a treasure. Now, it's obviously not going to be as good as Ragavan for 2 reasons. One, you only make the treasure once when it enters. Though you don't need to hit your opponent, so drawing it late won't be as bad. Also, you need to behold a dragon, which is not hard in a dragon deck, but you have to be playing a dragon deck.
Can I just say I love the mechanic of beholding a dragon?
Yes, me too.
It's like, hey, look at this dragon! Mm-hmm. Look at this dragon!
Look at it! And I'm glad also that they have said that Behold is going to become a deciduous mechanic, meaning that it won't be in every set, but they will bring back Behold fairly often as just a word for a thing that you'll do. For who knows what, for demons, for angels. It makes perfect sense to see it a lot.
Now I want to make a deck that has, like, Behold horrors. Like, maybe
Ooh!
Imagine going to, like, Duskmourn or Innistrad. Behold the horror! Ah!
Oh, honestly, such an excellent flavor word. And whenever a dragon enters, you make him bigger and you make him a flying dragon. Okay, so I think on the one hand, Sarkhan has some really tough competition, because he's going to be in a mono-red dragon deck. Do you know how many mono-red legendary dragons there are that compete with him for your commander?
Oof.
More than a few, and most people would not choose to build a mono-red dragon deck when there's so many cool multicolored dragons out there. And why would you have your commander not be a dragon in a dragon deck? Well, if you did, it would be kind of efficient and pretty strong. I think that this might be a really good example of good but not for me. I think this is actually genuinely a pretty good card and a pretty good commander. It might make waves in some more competitive formats, just that it comes out on turn 2 and makes you a treasure, and the next turn could be like a 3/3 flyer. Because you could cast a 4-mana dragon on turn 3 and make him a 3/3 flyer and hit, and that seems like a pretty good opener for standard or whatever.
Yeah.
But also not bad even in commander if you're going kind of lower to the ground.
Honestly, I would prefer, if I were to have this card, I'd prefer to put him in the 99.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's look at this one next.
All right, Shiko and Narset unified. We've got 1+ Jeskai for 4/4, flying, vigilance, flurry. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy that spell if it targets a permanent or player, and you may choose new targets for the copy. If you don't copy a spell this way, draw a card.
I think it's interesting that this is the only one in the precons where they combined the person and their dragon into one card. So she's a human spirit dragon. Which, okay, I thought that was what they were going to do with all of them or none of them, but they did it with just this one.
Humans and dragons connected by spirit.
Mm-hmm. And if I remember right, in the old lore, Narset was the most connected to the dragon overlord that Tarkir was left with. The others were all warring with their dragons. She was kind of palling up with hers still.
How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah. So that said, 4 mana, 4/4 flying vigilance. I mean, just based on raw stats, solid. But then that flurry ability, it has to your second spell has to target something.
A permanent or a player.
And if you do, then you may copy it, or you may no, wait, okay. It triggers when you cast your second spell regardless of what it targets. But if it does target, ooh, you know what? This is an important distinction. So if you lightning bolt as your second spell, you obviously do 2 lightning bolts. If your second spell is like, I don't know, a just a goblin, do you get a second goblin? Or no, you
No.
don't get a second goblin, but
No,
do you
because a
draw a
goblin
card?
doesn't target.
You draw a card. I think you do. Because the phrase is when you cast your second spell each turn.
Copy that spell if it targets a permanent or player, and you may choose. Okay, if you don't copy a spell this way, draw a card.
So I think that does mean that the only thing you need to do in order to meet the criteria is to cast your second spell. And then you copy the spell if you could because it has a target. And if you and regardless of what the second spell is, if you don't do that first thing, then you draw a card. So if I'm understanding this correctly, this card is awesome. Because the other Narset, you have to cast 3, 4, 5 spells in a turn in order for it to be worth it. This one, you have to cast 2. And that should be your goal in Commander anyway. And the payoff is you draw an extra card, which is just going to keep the ball rolling. But also, if your spell is a targeted spell, like, what is it called? Into the Maw of Hell. How about that?
Again, gorgeous art. Oh! Oh! Destroy target land. Into the Maw of Hell does 13 damage to target. Oh! To target creature. Oh! Oh, you could pull some nonsense with this commander.
Yeah. Let's see. Also, I wonder about, let's see, is it Star of Extinction? Oh, this one targets as well.
Dang, another beautiful one. Destroy target land. Star of Extinction deals 20 damage to each creature and each planeswalker.
Make it 40.
No!
So, if I'm reading this correctly, Shiko and Narset Unified would both, it would copy both of these if they were your second spell. And what could your first spell be? I don't know. It could be Seething Song, where you just make 5 mana.
Nope, it has to target something.
No, the first spell doesn't. When you cast your second spell each turn, you copy it.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Your first spell can be Seething Song, or it can be Mana Geyser, as another one that just makes a whole bunch of mana in order to set up for the second spell that's the one you're trying to copy. And that one has to target in order to copy it, or you draw a card. So, honestly, I think this is great. So, Shiko and Narset, where are you? There you are. However, I think I'm still going to put it down here.
Really? I think it should go and I like it.
You know, I think that a lot of these could be kind of riding the line between different things, and I'll take your input in stride here. You know, there could be... Actually, you know what? This would be fun to research. You definitely want to be playing a lot of spells that like make you mana, basically, in order to be the first thing that you do for the turn. But then the second thing, copying would be interesting. You'd have to find things to target. Yeah, this could be fun. Oh, pro tip, Aura's target. Okay, so if you cast an Aura spell like... what would be a good example of... why am I having trouble thinking of any aura right now?
Sugarcoat.
Mantle of...
Sugarcoat.
This is what I was thinking of. Mantle of the Ancients. is 5 mana for an aura, enchant creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, you return any number of target aura and equipment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to enchanted creature.
Oh my.
This is one of the best finisher cards in a Voltron deck. And also, enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it.
Can we look up Sugarcoat?
Sure.
This is my favorite commander canceling thing.
Oh, yeah!
Flash, enchant creature or food. Enchanted permanent is a colorless food artifact with, for 2 mana, tap and sack this artifact. You gain 3 life and loses all other card types and abilities. Oh, was that your commander? Oh, was that the really powerful card that was basically the linchpin of your strategy? And now it's a cookie.
Yay! So, yeah, all auras...
Imagine being able to make them into 2 cookies.
So, my point being that it's not obvious that all auras target as a spell on the stack, but they do. So,
Because by their nature.
that the enchant blank ability has in the reminder text basically that when you cast this, you choose target creature or food for this aura to attach to. So that will count for that flurry ability for Shiko and Narset. So keep that in mind. All auras are your oyster. And this one would be pretty good just because you would get +2/+2 for each aura and equipment attached to your creature. But I'm sure you can come up with better. You can come up with better.
You can do all kinds of crazy nonsense with this.
Yeah. So you know what? Yeah. Definitely goes up and I like it. Am I going to build it? You know what? I want to now look up powerful auras and stuff, and maybe that could be fun. We've just hyped this up as we've been talking here. So, let's go on to Shiko.
Shiko, Paragon of the Way. 2 mana plus Jeskai. For 5, Flying Vigilance. When Shiko enters, exile target non-land creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. Copy it. Then you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost.
Oh, and you said creature, but it does say card.
Card, sorry.
So you can, when it enters, you exile a non-land card mana value 3 or less from your graveyard, copy it, you can cast the copy. So I think I heard somebody saying
Did someone
this
destroy
is
your soul ring? Bring it back.
Yeah, So I heard somebody saying something like this is slow Snapcaster Mage because it does let you cast a spell from your graveyard. It has to be a small spell. But you do get to do it for free.
But only when Shiko enters.
Yeah, only the one time. And Shiko doesn't have Flash. Honestly, I'm really wishing that they gave this Flash. If this had Flash, it would be, say instead of Vigilance, this would be a sick card.
It would be, hey human, you dropped this.
As it stands, it could be a permanent spell that you're getting a copy of. So you could get, like, Rhystic Study back from the grave and get a second Rhystic Study.
Ooh.
I would hate that. So, and yet, I don't know that this is particularly interesting because it has the one enter trigger, and then it's just a solid kind of flying creature. So, I kind of want to put this in questionable.
Yeah,
and I think that's all I have to say about that one. So, then we go on to Sidisi, Regent of the Mire.
Okay, 2 mana for a 1/3. Tap and sack a creature you control with mana value X other than Sidisi. Return target creature card with mana value X +1 from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery.
Okay, so this is definitely not my style of deck. The whole, like, sacrifice a creature to bring one back, sacrifice a creature to bring one back. You can do that over and over again. Coming out as early as turn 2 is a great time. Being a 1/3 is also great, so it doesn't die to just 1 or 2 damage here and there. It comes out early enough that you can tap it the next turn and not worry about it. You can recast it 1 or 2 times without too much trouble. And it also, you sack a creature in order to bring back one that is a little bigger, and you can do it every turn. It sucks that it's activate only as a sorcery, but that's probably not going to hurt that bad if you're doing it, say, post-combat. You could attack with a creature, getting your damage, whatever its effect is, sack it and bring in a new one to replace it after the combat's happened. And yet, the synergies don't really, come to mind for me. So I think this might be the pinnacle of, good but not for me. Because, honestly, just like Sarkhan, it seems like a pretty efficient way of doing what it does, but I'm just not the biggest fan. I do like Zombie Snake Warlock, though. That's cool.
It's like, could you be any more villainous coded?
Yeah. Next.
Surak, Elusive Hunter. For 3 mana at a 4/3, this spell can't be countered.
Yeah.
And has trample. And whenever a creature you control or a creature spell you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, draw a card.
Okay, we've seen this kind of effect once or twice before in green cards of, not hexproof, not ward, but I will get a benefit if you do target my stuff. And it only happens if your opponents target your stuff. And this is one of those kind of Punisher mechanics where it will only dissuade the people from targeting your things who weren't heavily invested in it, and it will not dissuade the ones who are. So if your creature is worth removing, they'll still remove it even if you draw a card. And if it's not worth removing, then they weren't going to use their removal spell on it anyway. But this is a 3-mana 4/3 trampler that can't be countered. This is well above curve in anything but green, because green's freaking... Green can do whatever it wants. It can,
Green
it could
is
have
beastly.
added another number or two down here, and we'd be like, well, that's just green. So, as it stands, I don't think that this is even a particularly good commander. I think that this is a pretty good card in the 99, especially for decks that, say, care about you having 4 or more power, or playing lots of creatures that your opponents might want to remove, because you're playing more than just one color. Being mono green limits you a lot, I think. So I'm gonna put this guy down in questionable.
We've got a bell curve forming.
Yeah, I mean, that might be kind of subconsciously happening. But, I mean, okay, is he actually lame? Is he actually lame?
No.
I think no, because any commander with, trample and high power for its cost has potential. Mono green is the deck that's the color that's most likely to be stompy. Drawing cards is actually a really good benefit for that, so I think it's not lame.
Not lame.
No. Then we've got Tygom.
All right. Master Opportunist. 2 mana for a 2/2. And Flurry. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy it, then exile the spell you cast with 4 time counters on it, and if this spell doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend.
Oh boy.
Which means at the beginning of its owner's upkeep, they remove a time counter. When its last one's removed, they may play it without paying its mana cost. If it's a creature, it has haste. Basically, it's that one thing where someone will stop time for a bit, move the bullets around, and then restart time.
Yeah, so you have to cast 2 spells in order for it to trigger. And when it triggers, you still get your original 2 spells going as usual, but then you also have a duplicate that is waiting in the wings. And the question is, what do you want for this to copy? It would have to be something powerful.
For some reason, I'm thinking of the elemental summon creatures, basically the elemental creature sagas in the upcoming Final Fantasy set.
Oh, the summons. Those would be interesting.
For some reason, I want to cast a bunch of sagas with this. Hey, you remember? Did you like it the first time around?
Also, this has absolutely got huge Avatar: The Last Airbender energy. This looks like adult Aang. But I think that the biggest problem with this is that you're playing mono blue. So what's the most powerful thing that you can do with this? Take extra turns. Ugh. You can cast some little piddly first spell, and then your second one is a spell that lets you take an extra turn. And then you take an extra turn, and that clocks down your suspend already 1 or 2 times. And then when the suspend is done, you take another extra turn, and then Ugh. So, okay.
Oh, and it's spells in general, so if it's a creature,
Yeah,
it has haste, so...
that's true. That's
Oh, you could
true.
pull some nonsense with this, but it
You
would be
could.
exclusively in blue. That's like the biggest thing holding it back.
Yeah, and you can't really go like human kindred or monk kindred or something in mono blue because most human and monk kindred effects are going to be in white. If this guy had like white in here somewhere somehow, like just a white ability where he gains vigilance until end of turn or something, I don't care.
Just give us one more color to work with. Just pick one.
But I see what they were going for in that they had a monocolor commander of each color in here. The first one being that mono white one. So I hesitate once again to put this all the way down in lame because it's literally getting you a free spell and it costs 2 mana. And but
Give us one more color, and I'm sure you'll blow our minds, but until then, the mono is going to hold us back.
exactly, I don't see really a kindred thing happening. The only synergy that I can imagine with this that's powerful is taking an extra turn, and I don't want to watch that. Does this make it lame? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because still it's a power. It's weird that there's like this big middle ground of hopefully someone will find something that is between lame because it's too strong and lame because it's too weak.
Yeah.
I think it's possible, but I'm not
It could
seeing
work, but it's going to take some work to make it work.
and I'm not going to do it. So,
All right, Terse the Light Shatter for 3 mana, 3/3, haste. When Terse the Light Shatter enters, discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards.
okay.
Whenever Terse the Light Shatter attacks, if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, exile a card at random from your graveyard. You may play that card this turn.
It doesn't say without paying its mana cost.
I'm not sold.
If it said without paying its mana cost, this card would be excellent.
I mean, that is some metal artwork, but I'm not sold on the effect.
In fact, we haven't been looking at the alternate arts because, like, holy shit.
I don't know. I like the. I mean, this is really cool too, but I kind of like the other one better because,
This is-
again,
This is Grasp the Lightning.
and the other one is metal album cover.
Yeah, like, I am the Storm Summoner.
They're both great. I just like this one a little better.
Oh, yeah, it also has kind of a Threshold ability. Threshold being a kind of throwback to Odyssey block where you have to have 7 or more cards in your graveyard to do a thing. So they could definitely put Threshold on there, just a label, but a 3 mana 3/3 haste is solid. Entering the battlefield and you discard 2 cards and draw that many cards, great. When it attacks, if there's 7 or more cards, you do a thing. That's also pretty great. And yet, do they add up to an interesting commander? I don't think so. I think that these are all like kind of French vanilla, nice to have things, but they don't pull you in any particular direction. I'm gonna say this is also questionable, like the others. Most of these, actually, are all of them questionable except. Wait, where'd the black one go? Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh yeah, and Sarkhan. Okay, there are 2 of them. Well, Sarkhan's a unique case. He used to be a planeswalker, so he's a little different. And you can see also that these are part of the clans based on the watermark, and Sarkhan is not. Oh yeah, Sidisi is not.
Unaffiliated, baby.
Oh yeah. Weird. Sidisi should be part of the Sultai. Weird. Then there isn't a monocolor commander of the Sultai, but there is for the other 4. Is that a mistake? Because that looks like a mistake. Hold on.
No watermark.
Here she has the Sultai background. So for this alternate art, they use the clan symbols as the kind of background symbolism. So they gave her Sultai there, but not here. I wonder if that's literally an oversight, because it wouldn't be the only one. There's a typo on at least one card where they spelled survival as survivial.
Survivial. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make a D&D character and their name will be Survivial.
Oh yeah, that's not bad. Anyway, let's go on to Teval.
Pretty.
Oh yeah, pretty.
All right, that's 2 mana Sultai with 6/6 Flying lifelink. Spells you cast have delve. Each card you exile from your graveyard while casting those spells pays for a mana. Whenever you cast a spell, you lose life equal to its mana value.
Okay, so that is a pretty bad drawback, right?
That's... yeah.
I love it. Okay, I've been playing Magic for a long time. I said I've been playing Commander for over a decade. I've been playing Magic for over 2. And in recent years, when people talk about like, oh, kids these days are so soft and spoiled and all that kind of stuff, that's questionable overall. But in Magic, they stopped putting symmetrical effects like things that would boost you and your opponents, and they stopped putting drawbacks on cards. And that's nice, but I think that drawbacks can be really interesting. If you have a payoff that is so good as your spells are all cheaper, damn near free if you're exiling some cards from your graveyard, but the drawback is you lose life, but also it's on a 5-mana 6/6 flying lifelink, and you can build your whole deck around it because this is in the command zone, I think this is really fucking cool.
Plus, it's not like there aren't cards in the game where you go, whenever you lose life, this good thing happens.
Plus, there's two really cool looking versions of it.
Oh, wow. I think that one... oh, my.
It's so cool looking.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is it going in I like it, or is it going in excited to play? You know what? I think this is going to really depend. I like building things that I don't see other people doing. And so, to me, this is borderline between I like it and excited to play. I don't necessarily like exiling cards from my graveyard in order to cast things, but if I see no one playing it, maybe I will. If I see a few people playing it, I probably will leave it to them. I think this card is good and cool. But yeah, I mean, you've got to self-mill yourself is the problem. You've got to get cards into your graveyard. And so a significant portion of your spells are going to be ones that say put things in your graveyard. But then you also need to have things that you do with those cards once you get there. But honestly, just a freaking 6-mana 6/6 flying lifelink is cool.
That is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Now here's the other Teval. Technically, that other one, not necessarily made for Commander, it's standard legal. This one is not standard legal.
All right. 1 mana plus Sultai, 4/4, flying. Whenever Teval attacks, mill 3 cards. Then you may return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token.
I like this. Perhaps even more? Okay, so when it attacks, you mill cards, you get a land from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Okay, so this seems really good in a kind of lands matter deck, but also you can build in some zombie and druid strategies. It isn't a zombie druid, but it's going to be making zombie druids. Its ability on its own will put cards into your graveyard and take cards out, so it'll trigger this.
Yeah.
The synergies here are just, I want to say all over the place, as if it's a good thing. It is a good thing. It
widespread rather than all over the place.
Yeah, there are lots of cards that you can find that will benefit zombies or druids, or cards leaving your graveyard, or cards going to your graveyard because of mill, or lands. And you can overlap them. You can find lots that count for 2 of these categories at the same time in these colors, and attached to a 4/4 flying commander. I think this is great. Honestly, I think that both versions of Teval are going up here. This one is more my style just because it doesn't involve me like exiling the cards from the graveyard, kind of losing them, and I don't have to worry about my life total going up and down and up and down. But this is the other one's exciting. It's unique. Yeah, so I think they're both very cool.
All right.
Then who do we have?
Ureni of the Unwritten. 4 mana plus Teamer. 7/7, flying trample. Whenever Ureni enters or attacks, look at the top 8 cards of your library. You may put a dragon creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So dragons, 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 and more dragons.
Absolutely. So, unfortunately, this guy's probably going to be overshadowed 9 times out of 10 by the frickin' Dragon. The OG, most popular, most powerful dragon commander. Because you put this guy in the 99 and it synergizes really well and does a powerful thing, but it also does it for like one less mana and allows you to play white and black. It also gets one-upped by Myrim, the dragon where your dragons all get clones of themselves, which are in the same colors. So unfortunately, this is probably the third best dragon commander in Mardu colors. Or Mardu? No,
Teamer.
Teamer colors. Which is unfortunate because this is probably cooler than the other two, in that the other two, I feel like they kind of lack restraint. You know? Like, they kind of allow you to do whatever you want, and you go nuts really quickly. Whereas this one, I think you have to be a little more strategic. It's a little more fair. I'm going to say that this one's good, but not for me. I will be happy anytime I see somebody playing this, and I'll praise them for their restraint in not using the Dragon or Myrim.
I know your roommate is going to enjoy playing dragons, dragons, and more dragons.
Yeah, but also I'm giving it a little credit because it 100% goes in the 99 of both of those other decks. It's very good. And I think this is the last one we're reviewing today.
It is, and it's Areni, the song Unending.
Holy wow.
Wow, 5 mana plus Teamer for 10/10.
Yeah.
Flying, protection from white and from black.
Mm-hmm.
When Areni enters, it deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers your opponents control, where X is the number of lands you control.
Oh boy.
Okay, step 1, summon Areni. Summon Areni, the song Unending. Step 2, go to hell, I win.
I mean, okay, rarely have I seen a commander that says, just play a bunch of lands and then cast me and the game's over. Except, wait, it doesn't deal damage to players. It deals damage to creatures.
Okay, so it's the creature that's also a board wipe.
X damage divided.
As you choose.
But divided, though, so that means if you have 8 mana, 8 lands, which is very likely when you're casting Areni,
like you have
you're dealing
8 minimum.
8 damage, and you're dividing it. But he's a flying protection from black and white 10/10.
Give it double strike and your friends will never play with you again.
Yeah, that's practically a one-shot. And yet, okay, here's possibly a hot take. Questionable. Okay?
Explain.
Because if you're paying 8 mana into a creature like this, I feel like you should kind of win the game, or that the text down here should say like it hits all of your opponents, or it makes it does something more proactive. This thing does not have haste. This thing does not have. I mean, it has defensive abilities of protection from white and black, but it's going to come out pretty late. And all that you're doing up until that point is ramping lands, probably. And then when it does come out, you're doing kind of a board wipe. But if your opponent is playing, like, with 10 goblins, you can't even kill all 10 goblins.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you have 10 lands. So your opponent's going to have a whole turn to figure out what to do with this. And even then, it doesn't do... it doesn't kill them even with double strike. It seems like it's like one tick below powerful on every mark, even though an 8 mana 10/10 flying seems incredible. And yet I'm going to put it in questionable for that reason.
As a commander, anyway.
As a commander.
It's...
I mean, look, if you're doing the Dragon, this seems really good, because he comes down a turn earlier. You're still probably going to have about 8 lands when it enters, and there are very few dragons this large. So cool.
There aren't too many creatures that large.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? This is another one where, hey, you could prove me wrong. You could build a deck that is good with this, and actually, it's entirely possible to build a deck that's good with this, But
In
is
a
it going to
vac-
be great? Is it going to be exciting? Is it going to be unique?
in a vacuum, it looks like your main strategy is going to be to slap down every land you can think of and then get this on the field for its not game-ending effect.
Yeah, it just seems like
Slightly undercooked.
it's just going to be one of those things where like if you've ever played a game like Call of Duty, I don't necessarily have experience with this, but like Call of Duty, where you can build up to this big reward of like dropping a nuke, and then the nuke drops, and then the game isn't over, and it goes for another minute or two, and you actually haven't necessarily won, and in fact, maybe you still lose.
Well, my understanding is that in Call of Duty, when the nuke drops, or at least the first time they dropped a nuke in the game, you spend the rest of the game dying.
Oh, well, that's in the single player. I'm talking about, like, in the multiplayer, you can build up a kill streak and then drop a nuke. And actually, I think in that game, probably it is game over. But that's the point, is that this is a nuke that doesn't actually end the game. And you may, in fact, lose before your turn comes back around because everybody probably has roughly 8 mana. And you didn't actually kill anyone. You bopped some things, but your opponents still have a chance, for better or for worse.
All right, so this is what our tier list looks like.
I think so. I think Narset sadly is the worst commander in this set, in the sense that you have to work harder to make it good than a lot of the rest of these, and when you do, it's still lame because when it's good, it is taking the longest turn in Magic and boring all of your opponents. Now, people may end up playing this in CEDH in a month, as far as I know, okay? But I stand by my decision.
How let's take a moment to consider the bell curve we have going.
Oh, yeah.
How does it compare to the last tier list we did?
Oh, good question. I don't have an easy way of checking. I don't think. I would have to bring up our other video, and I hesitate to bring up a video within a video while I'm recording and didn't have the material ready. However, I feel like I have one-ish more excited to play than I did previously. And I think that I had much more that was circling around the middle here.
I just kind of want to know what the trend is.
Yeah, I mean,
We can figure that out next tier video, which will be Final Fantasy, and rest assured people, I will be extremely annoying about it.
oh yeah, because that's the next standard legal set that's coming out, and
I actually know stuff about Final Fantasy.
oh yeah, I'm sure that you'll have a lot more to say.
Not a ton, mind, just quite a bit.
Well, and I'm especially looking to you for like color commentary for the flavor stuff.
Oh yeah.
And the video is probably going to be like an hour longer. But
Oh, yeah.
I'm fine with it, and I think you will be too.
Hey, you're putting up with us for 2 hours at a time, apparently? Mm-hmm. Or however long you end up dealing with us?
Yeah, I mean, the last video that I did like this ended up being pretty popular, and I think in part because of the timing. I believe this is the first day where we have the entire set spoiled, and we can review every single commander. And I'm actually more excited for this set than I expected because some of the mechanics do seem really fun. And honestly, in terms of representing the flavor in the mechanics of 5 clans and their new spirit dragons, I think they knocked it out of the park. I think they did this as well as they could possibly have done it. And, while this theme doesn't necessarily speak to everybody, to the people it does speak to, I think they nailed it.
I do love that behold mechanic.
Yeah, and I think the most likely thing I'm going to build is going to be warriors. But we shall see. And that one's really interesting, and that one I'm not even sure what'll happen. So I think that's all I have to say for now, though. And we will be catching you in other gameplay videos, of course, as well as the next time that a full set is done being spoiled. I hope that you'll join us to talk about all the new commanders you could potentially build.
Please argue with us about our choices in the comments.
Absolutely. And other than that, I'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye!